It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. We love the cold. It's been hotter than cold all day. We don't know what to say, but we are happy for the holidays. Yeah! Hey guys, welcome back to the CharmingAnalysis podcast.
Yes.
We are finally doing our Christmas Palooza podcast.
I am so excited.
Me too. So, yeah, guys, we're finally doing for the month of December, we're going to be doing some holiday Christmas movies for you guys and doing reviews on them. Who's excited for Christmas?
I am.
Me too. So, yeah, this is our first podcast. We're going to be doing a bunch of it for the month of December. So, be on the lookout for a bunch of new podcasts coming this month. So today, for our first Christmas Palooza podcast, we're going to be talking about Home Alone and Home Alone 2. We're basically talking about the Home Alone franchise, minus the third, fourth, and fifth movie because Jay doesn't want to sit through them, to be honest with you.
Honestly, I'll probably watch them on a later date, but I don't feel like sitting through them.
You don't still feel like sitting through them right now?
No, I don't.
We could always save them for next year, you know?
Probably.
Yeah, because eventually we're going to have to do them anyway, but we'll eventually probably make a part 2 to the Home Alone franchise, but for now we're just doing the first 2 movies because we just saw the first 2 movies recently. So, yeah, that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So, honey, what are the synopsis for the Home Alone franchise?
Kid gets separated from his family through various hijinks.
Yes.
And he outsmarts 2 burglars. That's pretty much what happens.
That's basically the sum of both movies. But
yeah.
The first movie, the family goes to France, while the second movie, they go to Florida, I believe. But the kid's basically home alone in the first one, as the movie says, while in the second one, he's basically in New York City. Kind of thing. And there is slight differences with these movies, like I'm saying the slight differences first. So, basically, like I said, Home Alone, the first movie, the kid's stuck at home, as the title says, while in the second movie, he's stuck in New York, while his family is in France in the first movie and Miami in the second.
Uh-huh.
And both the first and the second movies have Macaulay Culkin as the main character when he's a kid. Mm-hmm. So basically they're playing as Kevin McAllister. So that's the main character. And then you have his parents. You have a lot of his relatives, which I don't even know how many they fucking have. Like, I think the main family has like 3 kids.
Main family.
Like 3 or 4 kids.
Yeah, and then the other, it's like 15 kids, I think.
In total.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. It's like, what the fuck? Like, these guys are a big-ass family.
Well, they're white, though.
I know, but you get what I mean.
White suburbia.
Yeah. But, and in the first movie, you're basically helping a guy and stuff like that, while in the second movie, you're helping a lady. So...
Well, let's talk about the first movie.
Yeah,
let's talk about them in chronological order.
Yeah, but I was just explaining the differences before we start. So we're going to talk about the first one, then do the second, give our thoughts about both, and then once we're done, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the other 3 movies, and I guess what we would do with them, and then we'll give our ratings.
All
right, so what are your thoughts on the first movie? Because personally, for me, I have more connections to the second movie compared to the first, while you have more connections for the first movie compared to the second. So what's your thoughts on the first one?
I didn't grow up with the first movie. I watched it when I was like 17, the first one. While in the second one, I just continuously watched that on a VHS when I was growing up. And, I mean, I feel like the first one will always be the better movie, in my opinion, because
Because Disney Channel basically bought out the rest of them.
No, not that. It's just because I just think it's a better made movie. Like,
yeah.
I just think that the acting is a lot better in the movie. I just think it's more sincere. It seems like a much more smaller picture, which is, it is great. I like smaller pictures and stuff like that. And then the second movie, I think they were just trying to capitalize on the fact that this was Home Alone. So I mean, it's not bad. I still like it. It's just, I don't have, like, I might have the fond memories of Home Alone 2, but the first one I always claim
is the better one.
Yeah, to be a better movie.
Well, then again, it's the first movie. Most of the time, the first movie is going to be the better movie.
Yeah.
However, this is one of those series that I feel like, at least from the first two, I feel like the first two are both equally good. Well, I think I may have seen a couple clips of the third movie, but I've never really, like, fully seen, like, the third, fourth, and fifth. I do want to eventually watch them with you, so that way we can talk about them and compare them to the first two. Because in the third, fourth, and fifth movie, they have completely different cast for each one. So that's something I would not mind doing. I don't know if we're going to be doing it this Christmas or next Christmas, but eventually we will be covering the other three. I just don't know when that's going to be. But for now, we're just sticking with the two.
Yeah.
So, my thoughts on the first Home Alone. I think it's a really good movie. Because the first three movies came out in the 90s. While the other two came out in the 2000s. The fourth and the fifth. Mm-hmm. And this came out like 1990. It's pretty good for like a 90s film. It's one of the better Christmas movies I've seen. Gonna be honest with you. It's definitely one of the better ones I've seen. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that. I've seen a bunch of Christmas movies. I think I grew up with this one a little bit, more in my teen years than my younger years and stuff like that. Like, I grew up, I think I first saw this movie when I was like maybe 12, 13. I didn't see it when I was a young kid, I believe. At least that I remember. But the story's really good. I like the hijinks and stuff like that. I'm surprised in the first movie they took so long to do them, though. Compared to, like, the second one, which kind of did it right away. But then again...
Not really. They both did it at the end, honestly.
Yeah, but I think the build-up to the ending part is a bit different in the first one compared to the second. Like, both of them have different build-ups. Like, this one, you kind of have more of, like, a personal connection with it. Mm-hmm. While, like, the second one, you have kind of, like, a broader aspect. Mm-hmm. They're both still good, in my opinion. But I feel like in the first one, like... It's probably the better of the two, if I had to pick. But the second one does have a place in my heart personally.
The reason why you probably find that a more personal connection is because it takes place in one location.
Yeah, well, this one takes place... The first one takes place in multiple locations.
Yeah.
Which is like... Because in the first one, you're basically going, like, all over the place. Like, you're literally going all over the town. You're going to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. It's basically a kid, as it says, home alone. Mm-hmm. And he kind of has to learn how to survive on his own while he waits for his family to get back. But this kid's mom is dedicated. Damn it. Why can't we have more parents like this? Such a dedicated woman.
She loves her kid. She'd do anything for him. And, like, that speech that she gives at the airport, I don't care if I have to sell my soul to the devil himself. I'll do whatever it takes to get my son. Probably one of the most heartwarming things that I've ever seen, like, a movie mom do.
Honestly, yeah. Like, this person's mom is such a good mom. Like, I'm glad in media we do have examples of moms like this, but I think live action-wise, this is probably, like, the best mom I've seen. Yeah. Live action-wise. Cartoon-wise is a completely different story.
Cartoon-wise, like...
Because there's a lot of really good ones in media.
Yeah.
While there's a lot of really bad ones, but... I think live action wise, this is probably like one of the best moms I've ever seen in a kid's movie, in a cartoon, in like a live action movie, and in general, like in a Christmas movie. Because, like, she does whatever she can to protect her kids. Like, all, like, 3 or 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how many the fuck they have.
I think there's, like...
At least, like, 3.
Yes, 3 other siblings.
Yeah, but it's, like, interesting. But... And she's like this in both movies. It's not just a one-off thing. She's like this in both movies. But, like, for me, I feel like both of them are sincere and stuff like that. But I do like the ending more of the second one and stuff like that because you actually get an apology from Kevin and stuff like that. Well, in the first one, you really don't get an apology, which I feel like should have...
you do.
But it's not as...
It's from his mom. That she, like, you know, like, didn't see.
I know, but
and,
also, like...
I think that's also valid, though.
Yeah, both of them are sorry for what they did, but I actually like how Kevin apologized in the second movie. I feel like, to me, that one was a little bit more sincere, but that's just personally me. But I still think both movies are really good.
Well, you already said sorry beforehand. He just needed to see. He just needed to
See her again.
See her again.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, make amends with him. So that doesn't bother me.
Yeah. But this movie is really good. If I had to, like, narrow it down. There's not much really to say about this movie, per se, because it's a very simple plot.
It's a very simple story, but they make it
interesting.
So sincere. They make it so sincere.
And very wholesome.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for a good, wholesome Christmas series, this is definitely one you should check out if you haven't. I feel like a lot of people these days have seen Home Alone, but apparently if you
It's a classic.
It's a classic. But if you haven't seen it, I do recommend going to check it out. At least watch the first two. I don't know how good the third, fourth, and fifth are, but at least watch the first two.
Can we talk about that scene, though?
Which one?
The church.
Yeah. Let's talk about the church scene. This scene, honestly, is like the best part of the first movie. Why don't you talk about it, honey? Because you have more of a connection to it than me. Why don't you talk about it?
I mean, I can't go into why, but, like,
I know.
It just kind of does. Like, I don't... Like, the way that the actor who plays the old man, the way he just says what he needs to say, and the way he's just, like, you know, talking to Kevin, like, you know, just meeting for the first time and understanding why, like, you know, understanding that, like, this man has been through a lot of stuff, and, like, just explaining to Kevin, like, you know, family is complicated.
But it's also like a good thing.
Yeah, it's complicated, but, you know, you will always love them. And,
no matter what.
Yeah, and just him explaining that, and it's just... That whole scene in general where they're both just talking to each other, I think it's probably one of the best scenes I've seen in a Christmas movie. And it just got to me. I always tear up when I see it. And it's so fucking good. I don't know why. Like, that Oscar-worthy scene is just so fucking good.
Did this movie get any Oscars?
No.
That's fucking disappointing. This is a movie that should have gotten an Oscar or something. Like, this deserves some kind of award.
Well, it's a cult classic. I think that's a good enough Oscar.
I know, but still. There's some films I've seen that are really good that I feel like people need to give more credit for. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well,
but that's just me personally.
Started, like, a whole
franchise.
Genre, not just that, a whole genre of just kids' movies that wanted to be like it. And yeah. It's a big, you know, it's a big movie in the cultural zeitgeist. Like, it's, you know, people know that actor, people know the scenario, and people can relate because we were once kids. There's still kids who watch it, and people, like, you know, get scared, especially when there's a kid involved who just doesn't have adults and doesn't have anybody to look after him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's a scary situation, but it's also an inventive situation. Like, what would you do if you were, like, home alone by yourself? Like, it's one of those things to where it's just a good kids movie because it plays out with, like, you know, just a character that I think people can just relate to really easily.
Yeah. So, I feel like it's one of those circumstances to where I'm glad this is a movie that people can literally look back on and stuff, and it came out in the 90s, and it's still relevant today. Mm-hmm. Like, it's still relevant in a lot of aspects today. Like, I honestly thought this movie would have been one of those movies that would have been dated, like, a long time ago, but surprisingly, no. Like, it's still relevant. Not as, like, relevant as, like, currently, but it's still pretty relevant.
Most movies that were made back in the day aren't dated because... Let's be honest.
There's a lot of stuff that happened that doesn't really happen anymore.
No, it's just because of I guess, the
circumstances.
The internet.
Yeah.
People, like, you know, things are more dated in the internet than when you just, like, I guess, just use just normal things that humans relate to.
Honestly, so. Yeah, because, like, but this movie still holds up, and it's, like, 10 years old, maybe 20 now.
It's made in 1990.
Yeah, 1990.
So...
At least, like, 20 years.
15.
15? Okay, maybe too far.
Wait, 90.
Yeah, 1990, like 90. The beginning of the 90s. How long is that?
20 years old.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. 20 years old. This came out 20 fucking years ago. It's 2020, and this came out, like, 1990. So that's, like, 20 years old. It still holds up 20 years fucking later. It's like, what the fuck? Like, anyway, that's all I really have to say about the first Home Alone. What about you?
I really like it. I really like the first Home Alone. It's nowhere as good as the second one, even though I still like the second one. The second one makes me still smile. It's just...
Yeah, but this one does have an emotional connection in some point.
Yeah, it does have an emotional connection to me.
But yeah, we'll give our ratings at the end.
Okay.
So let's talk about Home Alone 2.
Lost in New York.
Yeah, they're basically lost in New York in the second one. I kind of already gave my differences with it, but personally, I like the second one better. If I had to pick between the two, I personally like the second one better. Like, unlike the first one where it takes place in multiple locations, this one you have one main place it's staying. It's still staying in New York, even though it's going to a bunch of places in New York.
It went to the Plaza
Hotel, which...
It went to the Duncan's Toy Chest. I think, like, you know, there's notable...
places in this one compared to the other one.
Yeah.
But also, like, this one also
thing.
has Tim Curry in it, which is another reason I like it. Tim Curry's fucking in this movie, the second one, right?
He plays the concierge.
He plays the concierge and just... Oh my gosh, now that I've seen Fern Gully, I can't get Fern Gully out of my head. What the fuck?
There's more movies than...
I know, but that's the one I definitely think of the most for some reason. Fern Gully, I definitely think of, like, voice-wise.
Okay.
For him and stuff like that. But,
Is he weird live action?
No. He looks different than I thought he was gonna look.
You never seen Tim Curry in, like...
In person? I don't think so.
No? Oh.
At least that I can think of.
Time?
Probably.
Okay.
At least that I can think of.
She's
But, this movie is... The second one, in my opinion, is pretty good.
Did he play the devil? I think he played the devil.
I think. I don't really know. I don't know that many at the moment.
Yeah, I think he played the devil.
But it's a good movie. Like, it's a good movie. The second one, I have more of a connection with. I really like the lady that Kevin helps in this movie. I still like the old man in the first one as well, but I have more of a connection to this lady compared to the old man, but that's just personally
because
me.
She reminds me of you. That's
yeah.
why.
I have, like, a connection with this lady and stuff like that, because, like, I feel like me and her are kind of similar in a lot of ways and stuff like that, but that's one of the things I definitely can see about the second movie. Also, like, it's fucking beautiful. The scenery in the second movie is so fucking beautiful. Like, you're in New York City, there's snow everywhere, like...
You get more wide shots.
You get more, like, wide shots in this movie compared to the first one, and just... The fucking scenery blows my mind. Because the second one came out, I think, 1992. Because the third one came out in the year I was born. So, but yeah, like, the second movie came out 2 years later, and it does just as good as the first one, in my opinion. Now, I will admit, though, the first one had a lot more heart in a lot of this.
It's a lot more retreading in the second.
Yeah, I will admit this, though. The first one, there's a lot more heart in what they're saying. However, I will admit that about the first movie compared to the second. However, I do like how the movie progresses in the second one. The movie progresses at a good pace. The acting is still good. Not as good as the first one, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And I can still get, like, a lot of heart from it and stuff like that. But, let me think. But, yeah, it's a solid movie. Like, both, in my opinion, are equally good. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it has memorable scenes in it, definitely. I think for me, it's a little bit too much repetitive.
Yeah,
like,
I'll admit that too.
Repetitive scenes that go back and forth that are like, hey, we're paying homage, when you really could have probably done something a lot different and probably more memorable. Yeah,
I will agree with that with you on. I will agree with you on that. They did a lot of stuff that the first movie did, but however, like, I feel like this one had a decent pace, while the first one to me felt a little bit slow, but then again, the kid's at home, he has to do stuff around the house, he can't just leave the house like a pigsty.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, but that's one of those things, it's not a pet peeve of mine, but I can understand why they did it. Do I like how they did it? I feel like they could have done it better, but that's just me. But there's really not too much to say about the movies in general, because it's a very simple plot. It's a simple yet wholesome, like, heart-wrenching part. Like,
a lot of running around.
Yeah, a lot of running around for a movie. I'm gonna agree with you on that one. But okay, so I guess something I should ask: what are some things you don't like about either movie? Is there anything you dislike about either movie? Because for me, I don't really have any dislikes that I can think of off the top of my head.
I think it could have, I don't know, because it's 90s and I don't, expect everyone to have, on-screen time.
Yeah.
I don't expect everybody like that. I guess they could have, in the second movie, I feel like, I feel, actually in both movies, I feel like it could have, built up a little bit more as to, the kind of, just the kind of build up to his family kind of ignoring him and him being
I agree.
He's the middle child, so
he's like the kid that often gets ignored a bunch of the time, which is kind of sad.
It kind of bothers me in the second one that they kind of are still doing the same thing.
Yeah, I thought at that point they would have learned a little bit, but apparently not. Which is kind of sad in a sense that they didn't learn anything from the first movie, but they learned a little bit from it. However,
I guess that's why they stopped doing the second movie, because it would have gone so repetitive if they kept on doing it third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah, but then again, if you think about it, this is the only two movies that this main cast is in. Yeah. While the other three, from what I've looked up, we haven't seen the movies, but from what I've looked up, it's a different cast. I don't know if it's the same kid or if it's a different kid. It's
a different kid for each of them.
I know in the fourth movie, they did say Kevin McAllister is trying to help his parents that are divorced.
Well, apparently. I don't count that because it's not canon. It's not, if it doesn't have the same writers, directors, producers, it's not canon to me.
Yeah, I know.
It's not canon.
But yeah, that's what I looked up in the third, fourth, and fifth movies. Because I only thought they had two. I didn't realize they had 5 fucking movies. Because the third one came out in 1997. The second one came out 2002.
I don't want to see it.
And then the last one came out 2012.
The interest of that just
I know, but
and it's probably gonna be C-level movie and
but eventually
kind of bore me.
I know, but eventually I would like to watch the last 3 just to see what they're about. I don't think we're going to do it this Christmas because we only have a certain amount of time to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. But I will say next Christmas we are going to do the other three movies. Mm-hmm. Just to give us some kind of content to review, because eventually we're going to have to review them anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I understand it. We're not going to rush it like we did last time with the Candyman ones, because that was fucking ridiculous. I will admit that. It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do what we can.
If these turn out to be as boring as Candyman,
I'm going to be kind of disappointed.
Yeah, we're going to be pissed.
But, then again, it's not the same franchise. They're probably going to do something different. But, we're never going to know till we see it. You don't know how a movie is going to be until you fucking see it.
Yeah.
That's why, try and give it the benefit of the doubt at this point. But, I get where you're coming from.
I just kind of want to watch The Good Son now. Which I know you don't know what that is, but
yeah, but
I kind of just want to watch I just kind of want to watch Macaulay Culkin just in his other child roles, because he's done more than Home Alone.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's his most well known though.
Yeah, it's his most well known. But he's done other roles, not many, but he's done other.
How many has he done?
Good Son. That's pretty much all I know.
But yeah, eventually we should just look into it, because I'm actually kind of curious what he does in these other movies. Because I know he doesn't really do much nowadays, because he's 40 now.
He's 40. He started a band. That's all I really knew about him.
That's pretty cool, though. Anyway, so that's all we really have to say about the first 2 Home Alone movies.
So what would you rate them?
For me, I would give the first one, let me think, probably an 8.5 out of 10.
That's really high.
I feel like it's a solid movie, but it's one of the better Christmas movies I've seen. However, there is some stuff that they could have done a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. I feel like the pacing in the beginning was kind of slow, in a sense, and that's kind of why it was originally going to be like a 9 out of 10 for me, but with the slow pacing at first, at least for the first, like, I think 20 minutes, it was kind of but then again, I understand why they did it.
I agree with you on the slow pacing, but I think, it doesn't bother me. Because
it doesn't bother me,
still kept me
but,
interested.
Like, I was still interested, but I feel like they could have sped it up a little bit. But that's me.
Okay.
So, yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for the first one. For the second one, I feel like it still holds up to when I watched it as a kid. I still feel happy to watch the second one.
I feel like you got more enjoyment out of the second one.
Honestly,
so
yeah.
It really doesn't matter whether or not you rate the second one over the first one, because it just depends on how much more enjoyment you got.
Yeah. For me, for the second one, I give it like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, it's good. It's probably one of my favorite Christmas movies. The second one is probably one of my favorites because I have a lot more memories with it and stuff like that. I've seen it more than the first one. Mm-hmm. I remember watching on Cartoon Network when I was a kid. Whenever they had the holiday movies.
I had a VHS. I just rerun that shit all the time.
Yeah, but to me, 9.5 out of 10 is probably what I give the second one. I don't give it a complete 10 because there's still kind of flaws in it, but I personally feel like it's a good movie. It's a good, solid movie. What about you?
I didn't grow up with the first one. I grew up with the second. But
Same.
I still claim the first one to be a better made production. So
what do you give the first and second one out of 10?
It still hits me a lot more than the second one ever did.
Yeah.
So I give the first one an 8.
You give it an 8 out of 10?
Yeah, and I give the second one, like, I got enjoyment out of it. So I'm giving it, like, but I still see it as, like, I still see it as just flawed, like, retreading. Yeah. And that's something that where I think they could have done better. I know that they probably were just doing it because Home Alone, the first one, made a lot of money and they just wanted to do the exact same thing all over again. But in hindsight,
it can be good for some things, but not everything.
Yeah, in hindsight, like, it probably wasn't the best option. Like, the fucking creators even made fun of it for it. So
that's kind of sad.
If I can't have the creators take it fucking seriously, then I'm not gonna take it that seriously either.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna give it, like, I still enjoyed it, but I'm probably gonna give it, like, I'm between a 6.5 and a 7.
That's up to that. Okay, so just
around that point. I can't pick.
But yeah. Anyway. That's the end of our first Christmas Palooza podcast.
Yes.
We're off to a really good start. So be sure to watch, be sure to be on the lookout for some more holiday podcast stuff. We are going to be doing Christmas movies all month like we did for Halloween. And our goal is to try and get like at least 8 videos out, hopefully 8 to 10, depending on how many
specials we see.
How many specials we see and how many we actually have to talk about. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like my goal with this, like we did with the Halloween one, because I feel like we did good with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like we can do good again. And then after that, we're probably not going to be doing any more like month-long specials for like a while.
There's a lot. Honestly, I think there's a lot less movies that you can watch during Christmas time
than Halloween, which is kind of sad.
Which is a lot.
Which is sad in my opinion.
Making so many Christmas movies.
Which is fucking disappointing. You only get
the fucking Hallmark ones because they're cheap to make. Like,
that's disappointing.
It's
in
sad.
A sense. But
what was the last great movie we saw? Claus?
Claus was like the last major sad. Christmas movie, which we are going to do a review on. We are definitely doing one on Claus.
And trust me, I like my animated Christmas movies, but nobody fucking
wants to make them.
Nobody makes Christmas movies anymore.
It sucks.
It's all about, like, Star Wars, apparently.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm Mari.
I'm Jay.
And we're out.